The first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, whether it's scientific truth, or historical truth, or personal truth. It is the guiding principle on which Starfleet is based. Now, if you can't find it within yourself to stand up and tell the truth about what happened, you don't deserve to wear that uniform.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are Trekkie veterans, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today we're discussing the Season 5 episode, The First Duty.
Duty.
Pause for duty jokes.
Yeah.
The original air date is March 28th, 1992. And as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so, we're on our way to Earth. And so Picard can give this year's commencement address at Starfleet Academy. So Picard says that he's also looking forward to seeing Wesley Crusher again. And I'm like, that's bullshit. I mean, this show really wants us to, think that Picard and Wesley have some kind of bond.
Yeah.
When,
Come on, why wouldn't you be excited to see your son?
So apparently Wes is on a flight team. Good for him. Sort of. And they will perform a demonstration near Saturn that will be transmitted to the graduation ceremony. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why they
who cares? Why?
Yeah.
Basically,
Why would
they're
they
going to televise it?
Why would they do it over there? Why not do some kind of fun show close by so people can watch with their eyeballs?
Because they're doing it in space.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
To be fair,
everything's got to be space.
To be fair, they are a space academy, so.
Yeah, this is the United Federation of Planets. It's Starfleet, not Sky Fleet.
Yeah, it is Starfleet Academy, so. although I do agree, why does it have to be all the way at fucking Saturn? It could be
It's not
closer
that
to
far.
Earth.
Yeah.
That said, this is a little bit of a milestone in Star Trek. It has been at this point we are 30 years into Star Trek almost. 25 years into Star Trek, sorry. And this is the first time after hearing about it over and over and over that we actually get to see Starfleet Academy.
Ah.
Yeah. Huh, okay.
Wow, is it really the first time? I could have sworn there was shots of it at least.
Well, not in the original series because they didn't really go back to Earth much in TOS. I think they went back once or twice.
But I mean,
in the films,
in a previous season of TNG.
No, they went to Starfleet headquarters, but they didn't go to the Academy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The closest thing that we get to the Academy is in Wrath of Khan, seeing the Kobayashi Maru with all of the cadets at the beginning.
Right.
But they don't really explicitly say that is at the Academy. They kind of, especially since Kirk and Spock are walking around and that is Starfleet headquarters, they may be connected, who knows, but they weren't thinking about it too hard back then, so there's that. This is the first time that it is explicitly mentioned, this is where we are, this is Starfleet Academy, this is what it looks like. By the way, this is the only place in all of Starfleet that we don't have automatic doors.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. It's just a normal door.
Yep.
Okay, so then they're arriving, because I love a countdown, in 10 hours and 16 minutes to Earth. Oh yeah, because they called to say, what's your ETA or whatever. And also, Picard's send them my regards to Superintendent Brand. Okay, and from this reaction, I thought there was going to be a romance or something between them. I was very wrong.
Send my regards to Super Nintendo Chalmers.
So Riker says, when I was at the Academy, we had a Vulcan superintendent who memorized personnel files of every single cadet, knew everything about them. It was like having your parents around all the time.
They don't do a great job of showing the size or scope of Starfleet. It's really inconsistent across Star Trek. In TNG, several times it's implied that Starfleet is like, I don't know, 100 ships maybe, and then into DS9 it's up in like the tens of thousands. But memorizing every cadet, even if it's like, you know, a few hundred ships,
That's too many people.
like how many people must be there?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. They really want us to think that Picard got in trouble for shit. I don't believe that Picard ever misbehaved as a youth.
Yeah.
I have
me-
bad news for you, Dory.
I know we're supposed to believe that he does, but to me...
No. I have really bad news for you.
Uh-oh.
There's a whole episode about it later.
No, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I don't believe it. He seems too like buttoned up.
Yeah.
Like
And you will find out why.
I don't
Yeah.
believe that he's gotten into trouble or whatever, or that he
They
fought
do a
someone.
very good job of explaining
Yeah.
why he's the way that he is.
Because I don't find it believable. I don't know if it's just because Patrick Stewart. I would never believe Patrick Stewart has ever been in a physical fight.
That's
Yeah.
Not because he's like, oh, he's smaller. Nothing like that. No, it's just the way he acts. This is someone who has probably never done manual labor in their life, let alone a fucking fight. I don't believe this. To me, Picard is someone who arrives everywhere on time, if not early. To me, he was like the goody two shoes, which is not a problem. I cannot. It's the same of how I don't believe Riker is from Alaska. I know people are telling me this, and I know the show is telling me this, but I refuse to believe it.
Also, Alaska's probably a very different place in like 300 years, so there's that.
Probably, and I think that's the thing. I have nothing against Alaska. I just don't believe Riker's from Alaska. I don't know very much I don't know very much about Alaska, so I don't know enough to like have an issue with it. But I just don't feel like Riker's from Alaska. I refuse to believe that. Okay, so Picard like apparently got into trouble. I don't believe it. I don't know. Everybody's like into this Admiral brand, in which I was like, oh, an Admiral? This bitch gonna be evil? No. She was actually a normal person.
Yeah.
She was, good for her. Good for you, Admiral Brand. Look at you. Being the needle in the haystack of admirals at Starfleet, apparently. Okay.
It is very sad.
So Brand requests a private channel to speak with Picard, and she's like, there's been an accident. And then I was like, oh shit. I was just about to say, I thought somebody died. Okay, they did die, but I thought it was going to be like, I thought it was going to be like Wes. I thought it was going to be so much more serious about Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still very serious, but the way that like, because she says this, and then they go to like opening credits, and then she comes
back. It was a
pretty
pretty manipulative teaser.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I felt the commercial breaks in this episode.
Yeah, because then then after the credits, Picard's like, "Don't worry, Beverly. He just got 2nd-degree burns on his chest and broke his arm. He'll be fine. He's fine." And she's like, oh, but he's allergic to this stuff, so maybe they got to use this stuff. But also, she looked incredible in this scene. Mm-hmm. Dr. C is just... Sorry to objectify Dr. C, but she has been killing it lately. That hair has... The volume? I could never. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, she's very business, and I love that. Dr. C, always calm. Okay, so basically what happened was Wes's flight team, his Nova Squadron, if you will, they were practicing on an academy flight range near Saturn. They were flying in a close formation, and there was a collision. A ship hit another ship, and they all exploded, but 4 out of the 5 were able to transport out safely, and 1 was not. A guy named Cadet Joshua Albert, he died. He did not make it out. He was a friend of Wes's, and that's pretty sad. Young person.
I mean, he's kind of a blank slate. Like, you don't get to know anything about him. He's a plot device.
Yeah. So, okay, also, did we, I don't think, maybe I've been told this, but I didn't remember that Starfleet Academy's in, I guess, future San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yeah. San Fran is the headquarters of Starfleet and Starfleet Academy.
See, I have no issue with that necessarily, but I'm just like, why San Francisco of all places?
Because it's known as like a progressive city.
Yeah, also it was a different time when they came up with all of these things. Like, you're thinking back to the 1960s, progress was very different at the time.
San Francisco was known as like a hippie haven, like in the 60s.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So here's the thing. I forgot about it being in the 60s. I was just thinking of it as like it in the 90s. And I was like, what
yeah.
happened to San Francisco in the 90s? What's going on
There's
there?
a fucking
Yeah, I know
there's
about
there's a Voyager episode where they go back to 90s San Francisco in the episode, and like it is such a decision.
Yeah.
Like, they start dressing in 90s clothing, and you're like, oh, you guys are not rocking that at all.
Okay, so Admiral Brand says that so they're in kind of like a little conference sort of stage room or something. It's where they're going to do the hearing later. And she's like, okay, so we're going to do an immediate investigation. It'll be conducted by 2 command level officers. I kind of assumed that's how Picard would get involved. No, I was wrong. Anyways, and then we meet Commander Albert, who I thought was going to have a much larger role in this. So I looked up the actor because I was like, I recognize that man. And then I wrote out, his name is Ed Lauder, and he was the Deputy Commissioner Ed Dicekra in Psych. He was in a few episodes. He was in Seabiscuit and School Ties, and an episode of CSI in 2002. He has of course, as usual, he has a much more expansive IMDb page, but I just pick and choose what I want to mention.
That's fair.
So yeah, he played Josh's dad, and they've decided to like go forward with the graduation regardless of this tragedy. So now we cut to Wes, who is doing arm exercises. I was like, he looks fine. Oh yeah, of course, future medicine. Mm-hmm. It's like, but nothing but a scratch. So Dr. C and Picard go to visit. I noticed Wes had the triangle sideburns.
Yeah. They're
good for him.
Their standard issue apparently in Starfleet.
Yeah. Like, also, like, he's like a little grown up.
Yeah.
The boy's all grown up.
The boy.
Yeah. So so then we meet the squadron leader, Nicholas Locarno, who of course will be known as Nick. Of course, there's no other name I would have called him by. So Wes is like, Mom, Picard, can you leave? I need to speak to Nick in private. And they were like, oh, sure, Wes. Okay. The second
they
walked
immediately make it look suspicious. Like, you're just like, okay, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. I immediately thought, I knew I was going to be wrong. I knew it wasn't going to be like that. But my first thought was like, because of the way they kind of rushed to each other, I was like, kiss.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that as well.
I knew it wasn't going to be that because this show wouldn't do that. But I legit, the way that they just like, Wes wanted them to leave and the way they just kind of rushed together, I was like, Wes. And then, no.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Ashley Judd was just a friend, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
So I was like, oh, conspiracy, because they're like, we're like, don't say anything or whatever. And I was like, ooh, what's happening? Okay, so now we cut to the outside. The way that I rolled my eyes, I thought I saw my brain for a second. There's an old man yelling at the grass because a kid was reading a book on a flower bed. And who is this old man yelling? Or the old man shakes his fist at clouds or something?
Yeah.
What's that?
Ray Walston.
It's fucking Boothby.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is fucking Boothby.
I forgot about Boothby until his name was mentioned, and then I was like, are you fucking kidding me? They're doing this purely so someone will be like, oh, Picard was infamous in some way, like memorable at the Academy, because then he's like, Boothby, remember me? And I'm Picard, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, of course, what happened to your hair? And I'm like,
He got old.
I just...
Yeah, that's the joke.
Yeah, I do not... I don't care for, like... Okay, anyways. Okay, so Boothby gives
Well, you're no fun.
absolutely zero fucks. He's just, like, pissed off at, like, everything. So Picard
Yeah, he's a
then...
crotchety old man.
Yeah. So Picard helps him plant flowers because Picard apparently has a bit of a green thumb now. And okay,
Don't worry,
so,
you'll never hear about that again.
So okay, so Boothby calls Picard son, and immediately I had to look up how old this actor was because I was like, that's hilarious. But actually, to be fair, I looked it up. The guy who played Boothby was born in 1914, and Patrick Stewart was born in 1940. So I guess that's kind of a fair. I guess that's fine.
Okay, so
I mean, I
here's
feel
the
like he's
thing.
too old to be called son, but I guess this age
Here's-
difference, it could be son. I don't know.
Here's the thing about Boothby. His casting is a little bit tongue-in-cheek for science fiction. Boothby, the actor, Ray Walston, is the man who played the Martian in My Favorite Martian, which is kind of notorious for being like one of those early successful 60s sci-fi shows. I mean, it didn't run for very long. I think it ran for like 3 years or something like that, but it has something like 100 episodes or something. It was pretty successful in its time. And I think casting him was probably a bit of like a, look who we can get kind of situation.
Well, that's fair.
And we all know that Star Trek is really big on homage.
Yeah. Okay, so then... okay, I almost want to skip over this. I don't care. They're like, oh, Picard got in some fight. I don't believe it. And he's like, oh, I wouldn't have graduated without Boothby. And I just heard, I don't care what happened.
Yeah.
Listen,
I actually quite like that scene because, like, what makes it interesting is it's like
Nothing.
the one time that we have seen Picard choke up in front of someone.
I don't believe this. Not there. Like, I don't believe that Picard was this kind of person. And there's nothing anyone can say, even though whatever this episode is that's coming up, nothing in that episode's going to convince me that this was Picard. That Picard got
we'll
into
see.
fights or some shit. He was the golden child, and nobody can tell me otherwise.
We'll see about
Just
that.
ask Robert; he'll tell you. Okay, so Picard asks Boothby if he knew Joshua. And he's like, oh, yeah, super ominously. He's like, I know the whole squadron.
Yeah.
And then they cut away from him. It's like, oh, okay. So not going to.
I know they did that for dramatic effect, but like
It was kind of funny.
in the real conversation, you wouldn't just let that go.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're in we're in Wes's room, and we were with Nick, Wes, and we meet the other two cadets who were in the squadron. Cadet Hizar? I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
I don't know what you're
And
trying to
Cadet-
say.
It doesn't matter. This
And Cadet
like this
Sito.
character is never seen again.
Okay. Apparently, they were in a diamond formation and were moving when Joshua's ship collided with another cadets. Okay. Now, whatever. Okay, listen. So, I'm thriving right now. I'm doing great. Okay, so they like meet to be like, we're all on the same page, right? And they're like, yes. And then they go into the hearing. So then like Brand asks Hazar, because she's supposed to be the navigator or something. She's like, oh, did you guys like deviate from the flight plan? And she's like, oh, no. But then Brand is like, oh, okay. So why do we have proof that you didn't stick to the plan?
Yeah.
And then Hazar's like, oh, we were just like we did like go a little bit off, but we were like within safety parameters. And Brand is like, that's not what I asked.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, listen, we changed the route on the way to Saturn. And then there's another, okay, so the investigation people is Brand and then a Vulcan whose name we don't learn, I don't think.
Yeah, you do.
We do?
I think it's Saltic.
Oh, okay, then I missed it completely.
It doesn't matter. He's basically Scally McScowlface.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's like, did anyone see the collision? And Nick's like, no, none of us did. And then the Vulcan's like, hey, Sito, you are literally fucking behind them, allegedly. You saw nothing? And she's like, oh, actually, I couldn't see anything because I was going off sensor readings. So I couldn't see Joshua.
And everyone was like,
formation.
gasp.
Yeah, Picard finds it suspect because, like, apparently you wouldn't do this, like, this kind of maneuver that they
It's
were
not
doing.
normal.
Yeah, you need, like, visual cues for it or whatever. It's not regular. So, yeah, this is all, like, very questionable. So then Nick drops this bomb to the audience, to the people, that Joshua was getting weird. He was getting, having some difficulties and nervous. He was getting nervous, anxious during flybys. His flying was erratic, but nobody told anybody. Mm-hmm. So Nick thinks that Josh maybe got frightened and tried to pull out of the turn prematurely and then crashed into the other cadet. And Nick didn't want Josh. They're like, oh, why didn't you say anything? And Nick's like, well, I didn't want Josh to get frightened and pull out of the turn prematurely. And I just read the same thing twice. They're like, why didn't you say anything? He's like, oh, well, I didn't want like Joshua to be remembered as like an anxious person. Oh no, he's like, oh, someone who panicked. I was like, what a weird thing to think that would be someone's legacy. Is yes, Joshua Albert, the kid who panicked.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, so a little bit of context here. The episode is actually written from experience. Ronald D. Moore was one of the two people behind it, and he had been in the. Do you know what the ROTC is?
Yes, isn't that like the young army thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty common, especially with like. What do you call it? Working class families back in like, anywhere from the 60s to the 80s. So yeah, it was quite common. It was considered like a, good thing to have on your resume, that sort of thing. And he was writing from experience of the kind of like camaraderie / like really childish drama that comes from that.
Yeah.
Because in the end, these are all kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are still growing up. They are, 19, 20, that sort of thing. That they see their entire legacy as stuff they will do in the next 6 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so then Brand is very disturbed by what she's heard by the squadron, and she's like, yo, you guys let someone fly who was like not able to keep formation. That shows a serious lack of judgment. Mm-hmm. And yeah, okay, so now we're on the ship, and okay, here's the thing, there's literally no reason why the Enterprise should be involved in this.
Yeah.
No, there isn't. It's a plot device. The reason the Enterprise is doing stuff regarding it, despite the fact that they kind of establish early on that they don't need the Enterprise's help, is because they're our main characters.
Yeah. I was like, listen, I love the gang and everything, but like sometimes, like, fuck off. Like this is not like, this is not about you.
I mean, I think like.
I know they want to help and everything, but it just like, it's like, okay, the Enterprise thinks it's the main character.
Yeah.
I mean, it is in the show, but they think they're the main character in the world or the universe.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys, maybe stop. So,
I mean, it was written by Americans, and Americans, not Americans in general, but like, the United States tends to think of it as itself as the protagonist of the world.
That's true. Okay, so they decide. So okay, Picard's like, "Hey, Geordi, drop everything you're doing, and we got to reenact this scene." Mm-hmm. Brand said it's cool, and I'm like, bullshit. But like, I know that's like, I believe that like, she gave Picard permission, but at the same time, like, there's no reason why she would give Picard permission for this. This is very dumb. And so then, the kids meet Nova Squadron. I don't know why I'm shouting. They like meet and they're like, we agreed not to lie. It wasn't Joshua's fault. And I'm like, Jesus, what the fuck happened? And then the girls agree that Joshua got scared and pulled away. And then Nick is like fully gaslighting Wes at this point.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're a team. We have an unbreakable bond forever. Team Nova Squadron. And I was like, oh boy. Because he's like, that's what we're going with, and that's what happened, right, Wes?
Yeah, I was gonna say
"Ugh."
this episode hit a lot different when I was younger.
It was.
But now that I recognize signs of manipulation and whatnot, it is a lot more clear that he's a kind of being a manipulative piece of crap.
Yeah. Okay. So then, Wes is now like, I guess, prepping for his testimony back in like the courtroom or whatever. And Commander Albert finds Wes because, you guys, the return of the sweaters.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, I found this sweater of yours in Josh's room.
I found this sweater of yours and it appears to be covered in your guilt.
Yeah.
Also, okay, here's the wildest part of this story, though, this conversation. Wes is like, oh, yeah, we went to Calgary and Josh forgot a sweater.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Having just gone to Calgary, like literally a month ago, skiing is like a big thing over there.
Yeah. How could you go to Calgary and forget a sweater? How?
Well,
What?
when you can transport anywhere on Earth.
Yeah.
But you're still not going to bring a sweater to Calgary?
Look, man, maybe you're stressed out and you're packing and you just forget it. Sometimes, you have to get up early for your
1 second
magic
of travel?
transporter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's half the stress is getting ready to travel. The stress is gone. All you have to do is make a fucking list of what to bring, and the top of this list to Calgary should be sweater.
Yeah, but maybe he didn't make a list.
Well, that
He
feels like
certainly
a
didn't
Josh
check it
problem.
twice.
Yeah. Okay, so
It's okay. Nick's the one who's both naughty and nice.
oh yeah, I guess so. To a certain degree, yeah. Oh yeah, so he's like, oh, Wes, you helped him with his math homework. And oh my God, this scene actually was very heartbreaking because Commander Albert is like, I understand it was Josh's fault and I'm sorry he let you down. And I was like, oh no. Like at this point, I did not know what
It's like
happened.
he said, he's literally carrying a sweater wrapped in
Yeah.
guilt.
Yep, it was very sad. I also did notice that when they did the exteriors of the headquarters, the flag was at half mast.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a nice
So-
detail.
Yeah.
I can't actually be sure whether or not that was an addition that they did in future. In when they did the remaster or not. But either way, good
Yeah.
call.
Yeah. Okay, so they do what's now for Wes's testimony. They're going through the recording. Oh, there's a recording. Okay, before the accident. Like after he left orbit of Titan, Wes said that Nick led them into a Jaeger loop, and then 9 seconds later, a proximity alarm went off. He lost the. What the fuck did I write? I think I wrote lost control of ship because he washed. That's not correct.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have washed.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have remained dirty.
I don't know what I wrote. I don't know what that word's supposed to be. But it wasn't. The word is wasn't. Oh my God. Because he because he wasn't able to activate his escape transporter. Okay. And okay, honestly, on a side note, what a way to murder someone, though.
Yeah.
It's like the reverse of what happened to Riker, but like to actually kill someone that way, to transport out of a scene and someone explodes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I guess that is what Riker was accused of. But I'm like, why? Somebody should do that in real life. Not in real life, but like in the show, because that actually would be a cool way to murder someone. And like make it look like an accident. Sorry. I couldn't help but notice.
Why are you pondering this?
I'm obviously not like it's not happening. I'm not. It can't happen. But I just think
No, it can't happen. Like, come on.
I just feel like that would be a cool way to murder someone on one of these shows. It's sneaky.
Well, I've got good news for you, Dory.
Someone
there
does
are
it?
there are like hundreds of episodes of Star Trek left of varying series. There is definitely an opportunity for them to not use the same idea twice and do that instead.
Ooh.
That said,
Oh God.
they used the same idea twice quite a few times.
Okay, so I'm trying to find where I was in my notes, and I just looked for the word murder. I was like, okay, next point.
Nice.
Okay, so Brand is like, okay, so like if they were in the Diamond Squadron the whole time. Oh, she's like, oh, we really need to know. What? Okay, I don't know what the fuck I wrote. Okay, but they've got security footage. They've got footage from something random that like caught them in space like 6 seconds before or 7 seconds after Nova Squadron completed the Jaeger loop, and they were in like a circle sort of formation with everyone like facing outwards. And Brand is like, care to explain this? Mic drop. And Wes is just like, no. Okay, so now cut back to, okay, now it's Wes and Dr. C in his room, and Dr. C is like, don't worry, Wes. The Data and Geordi are helping, and obviously the like footage is like fake or something, and the investigators clearly like it's not accurate. Something's wrong with this, and he's like, Mom.
Yeah.
I love his reaction to that, because he's basically incredulous that she even believes him.
Yeah.
Well, it's because he's like super guilty on it. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. That said, this episode really doesn't do a good job of making these kids like out to be good liars.
No.
And I feel like that works against them for the entire episode. The episode is very much a drama, and that's totally fine. It does a really effective job at telling its story. But the directorial choices with just how guilty they are all the time is a little on the nose.
Yeah, like Wes the whole episode looks like he's gonna like bust all of his blood vessels.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, Dr. C's like, I know you're telling the truth, but like the satellite made it look like you were lying. And it's like the Jim Halpert look at the camera moment or something. Dr. C's like, don't worry, Wes, we're gonna Nepo baby the situation. We'll be fine. Okay, so then I wrote no, we're looking at Boothby pulling weeds by Ontario Place. It totally looks like Ontario Place.
It does, yeah.
And Picard's like, Boothby, spill the tea about the Nova Squadron. Now's the time for some hot goss.
Yeah.
And, okay, so Boothby does give us some hot goss. He's like, these are the cool people at school. And I was like, these nerds? Okay. No, I guess that's cool or whatever.
They're pilots.
Okay, so then Boothby, I don't know, pilots don't, they're fine. I don't know any pilots, but that's fine.
Well,
whatever.
that's the point. If you're
Pilots are
like,
automatically
in a military
cool.
thing, the pilots are like the coolest.
Okay, well, good for them. Is that why Top
pretty
Gun
much.
is so popular?
Yeah.
Okay, so then Boothby says, Nick is what makes that team special. He's their coach, surrogate father, and best friend all in one. And then I wrote in brackets, sounds like a cult leader. And then because this was like I paused it, wrote that note, and then I pressed play, but Boothby continued. And then he says, a natural leader. The members of that team love him. If he asks them to do something, they do it, even if it means going right over a cliff. And I was like, yeah, cult leader. This sounds very bad. So, okay, Geordi and Data tried like 53 scenarios and shit. Nothing conclusive. However, they did find that Wes opened his coolant interlock just before the maneuver around Titan, which is unusual. Okay, I'm literally now reading from my notes. It's unusual. Normally the interlock is closed unless you're performing a check on the engine coolant levels, but no evidence that Wes was performing that sort of check. Why else would it be opened, you ask? Geordi says, oh, it's the first step in purging the plasma exhaust. Procedure would be very hazardous while ship was in flight. The engine would probably ignite the plasma. Some Picard's like, ignite the plasma, eh?
Dude, as soon as Picard hears that, his face goes white. He's like, oh,
light
I know
bulb
what they
moment.
fucking doing.
Yeah, so then, also there's a very dramatic close-up. So then Picard calls Wes into his ready room and is like, is this what the maneuver was? And he shows him like a animation on an iPad. And there's like, And he's like, stars explosion, Colvord starburst. And it's like one of, quote unquote, what Picard says, one of the most spectacular and difficult demonstrations in precision flying. But it hasn't been performed at the Academy in over 100 years because it was banned after a training accident where all 5 cadets died.
Yeah.
So Picard's like, Nick probably wanted to go out with a bang, and so he got all you guys to learn it to perform it at graduation. So so he would graduate a legend. And Picard's like, right, Wes? And Wes, honestly, might be one of the best power moves I've seen in this show. If I'm going to be totally honest, I was shocked, but I loved it. Wes goes, I choose not to answer, sir. Picard is just absolutely he was probably more shocked than me. Actually, I don't know who was more shocked.
He does not take that shit sitting down.
Oh, yeah, he is.
And that's why he stands up.
Yeah. And then he's like, Wes, he's, oh my God, Picard is like very angry now. And Wes is like, I didn't lie. And Picard's like, a lie of a mission is still a lie. I mean, that's debatable, but listen.
That's very much considered a lie.
Okay, yeah. Sort of, yeah. I'd say like 95% of the time, yeah. So then Picard... God, oh my God. He goes down memory lane and he's like, remember when you first arrived on the ship? You were but a boy.
But a boy.
So, yeah. Welcome back to Boy Corner.
Bada bing, bada boy.
That the name of this episode?
Maybe.
So Picard's like, you're a presumptuous child. What is that? Presumptuous? Is that what I wrote? A presumptuous child playing on my ship, but I never forgot
it might
how
be
you...
precocious?
Okay, maybe. I wrote presumptuous, which I guess doesn't make... don't know if that... Anyways, he's like, I never forgot how you knew every control, every display. You behaved as though you belonged on the bridge. And then when I decided to make you an acting ensign, I was convinced you would be an outstanding officer. And I never questioned that conviction until now.
Yeah. Like, Picard gives, like, the most hardcore, like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed speech.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
So then he goes, the first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, or whether it be scientific truth or historical truth or personal truth. It is the guiding principle on which Starfleet is based. Oh my God, I thought I wrote baked for a second.
This is part of that Picard song we keep telling you about also, this whole speech.
So now if you can't find it within yourself to stand up and tell the truth about what happened, you don't deserve to wear that uniform.
You don't deserve to wear that uniform.
I'm going to make this simple for you, Mr. Crusher. Either you come forward and tell Admiral Brand what really took place, or I will. And then Wes goes, Captain. And then Picard goes, dismissed! So then Wes calls like Nick, and he's like, Picard, figure it out. The jig is up. And Nick's like, with what evidence?
Ooh.
Show me the evidence. And like, oh, there's none? Cool. We're fine. And they just like, they ask us what happened. We just say like, nothing. Don't worry about it. It's cool. It's all fine. And Wes is like, listen, I draw the, they're like, because it's just Picard just has a theory that it doesn't, like, there's no like physical evidence. So that would probably make Picard a liar. And then Wes is like, I will allow, a cover up, but I draw the line at someone calling Picard a liar. And then Nick is like, Nick like fully looked like he was going to murder Wes for a second. Like he had this look on his face. And then he's like, wow, Picard really must have given you an inspirational speech. But then I also wrote...
yeah, that is what he's good at.
I did write in my notes, Wes really rolls over to whoever is giving him an inspirational speech at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Nick's like, that must have been a pretty good speech to make you turn your back on your friends.
Oh, God. What an asshole.
And I was like, ooh, boy. Yeah, so Nick's like, bye, bitch. You really gonna throw us under the bus to clear your conscience? I could never. And he's like, I would rather live with this than throw away my life or my future. I was like, wow. Okay, choices are being made. So then Bran...
So, before you go on, I want to point something out in the background corner. This was not the only possible ending for this episode. So the episode was written by Ronald D. Moore and another guy on the team named Naren Shankar. And the two of them were both drawing from their own childhoods, as I mentioned. And they brought the idea to Rick Berman, who initially shot it down because he's just like, well, this is Star Trek. Like, we're supposed to be like going off and exploring new planets and space. Like, going back to Earth and doing this whole thing does not sound like a great idea. And Rick ended up changing his mind when I think Michael Piller argued it on their behalf. But it was basically that we have an opportunity here to tell a story that will be meaningful to the younger people in our audience. We're not going out there and saying, hey, drugs are bad, hey, crime is bad, hey, teenage misbehavior is bad. We're saying that this is your own morality that you have to look at. And we have an opportunity to tell a really important story that way. And that's where Berman ended up lamenting and saying, all right, let's go for it. But I think he laid down a stipulation that they could only have 3 new sets for it.
Is that why they didn't invest in a open and closed door? In an automatic
Probably, yeah. Yeah, because they did just film on location for that one so they could get some outdoor lighting. But in the original idea that Ron Moore and Naren Shankar had, they actually were not going to have Wesley side with Picard. They were going to have him side with his friends. Yeah. And now the story was laid out differently so that Wesley was not morally wrong for doing it. Instead of lying for the death of someone like this, it was going to be lying on Nick's behalf in order to kind of like defend him from getting in trouble.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, so the story was going to be quite a bit different that way, in that it was morally just for him to be taking that position instead of taking the duty position. So it was, hey, you have to make a choice here. You have to think of your future, or do you want to protect your friend?
Yeah.
Or does your friend deserve to take the fall for this? So it was something that Moore particularly felt quite passionate about. He really thought that going that route was the better route. To this day, I think he still thinks that. The last time that he was asked about it was something like 10 years ago, and he was still very adamant about that. This episode was very dear to him, and I don't know. I think I'm with Michael Piller on this. Obviously, we never got to see what the result of the other direction would have been, but I think that the direction that Piller agreed on with them in the end, or rather ruled on with them in the end, ended up being a very good decision, and I'm quite happy with that. And I think they did a very good job of executing that here. Piller, in particular, said that the disagreement that they had about the ending was one of the most rewarding disagreements that he had with anyone on the entire show. Yeah. Just because they were sitting there and they were not saying, look, do we make him do the right thing or the wrong thing? They were discussing what is the right thing. And he really appreciated that there was like ambiguity there. Even if it ended up being behind the scenes. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, continue.
All right, so then Brand is like, listen, we can't confirm your testimony with this screenshot we have. And you dummies won't explain anything, which is like very suspicious. So either the data is faulty or you guys are a bunch of liars.
Yeah.
But suspicion is not proof. So, and like there is no proof that you guys lied. So there's like, and if there's no other evidence, we're closing the investigation. So then they're like, okay, for filing an inaccurate flight plan and letting Cadet Albert fly when he was having difficulties, she's ordering a formal reprimand placed on each of their permanent records. Also, they're So they were all like fine, but then they're like also revoking your flight privileges, and then Wes is like, wait.
Yeah.
He's like, I have something to say. Here's the truth. We pushed Josh into doing this maneuver and he wasn't ready. They girl bossed a little too close to the sun. They were like, we gotta do this really cool trick. But no, it was fucking dangerous, and they didn't do it. And Wes is like, I really want to make sure that like Josh's dad knows that he didn't let him down. It was us. Oh, and I was like, oh boy. And then Brand is like, Nick, you were the leader. Anything to say, anything to add or to say? And Nick's just like, no. I was like, oh shit. Okay, but then we learn from like Picard and Wes have like a last scene together, and then we learn that Nick has been expelled, and Wes is like, man, we all should have been expelled. It's like, yeah. But apparently Picard's like, yeah, literally that was what was gonna happen. But then Nick decided to he was like that he said that he used his influence as leader to convince the group to try the maneuver and cover up the truth. And he's like, he took complete responsibility so the team wouldn't get expelled. Honestly, I was surprised at that little twist. I was like, okay, so Nick isn't a 100% asshole.
Yeah.
No, Nick believed what he was telling them. He may have been manipulative about it, but he did believe it.
Yeah, he thought
so
like the greater
wow.
good of the team was like the right choice.
Yeah.
Actually, while we're on the topic of Nick, since we've reached the end of the
I'm almost,
episode
wait, hold
here.
on. I'm so close to
okay,
the
go
end.
ahead.
Okay. So then Wes says that he's like, I feel awful. I let down everyone, my mother, my friends, you. And then Picard says, you should feel bad and you will pay for what you've done.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah. So, okay. So basically, Brand has decided that in addition to all that other shit, Wes's academic credits for the past year will be canceled.
Yeah.
So, and he will not be able to advance with his class. And then Picard is stone cold at this though.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I guess life will be difficult now since everyone knows what you did and you're just gonna be on campus. Bye Wes, see you later.
Yeah.
Just leaves. Like, oh wow, what an exit. That is rough. Yeah, so like what a kind of like bummer to end on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sorry Wes, I guess you're just gonna have to deal with everyone knowing what you guys did.
Yeah.
Bye.
So this episode has some interesting callbacks in future Star Trek. One of them ends up being in another TNG episode. One of these characters comes back and they do a very good job with that.
Yeah.
But the other one, this is where things get very interesting. When they started developing Star Trek Voyager and they were putting together a crew for it, they wanted a crew that was a little bit more ragtag. So they ended up drawing into some Star Trek lore, which you don't know much about yet because we haven't reached it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the characters ends up being this actor, Robert Duncan McNeil, who played Nick Locarno. But the problem is they didn't use Nick Locarno as their character. They used a character who is Nick Locarno in every possible way, but they gave him a different name. Yes.
That's weird.
So it's
that
same actor.
That actually would have been a lot
almost
more
the same
if it was
history.
Nick.
Yeah.
He's a pilot who fucked up and got his other got his other the other people in his squad killed while trying to show off. And the captain, when she's putting together her crew, is like, "Hey, you're the best pilot. I need you," and ends up pulling him out of a penal colony to do it. And he similarly ends up being like a natural leader. He is written very similarly, but they give him a completely different name. And the theory on this, it hasn't been 100% confirmed, but it's pretty plausible, is that if they had used this character, they would have had to give Ronald D. Moore and Naren Shankar writing credits on every episode of Voyager. So they just gave him a new name and we're
Yeah.
like, fuck it.
Yeah,
Same guy,
wouldn't they
whatever.
have to give him royalties on Voyager episodes too? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, they would. They would.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Because that would have been
Yeah.
very interesting if it was Nick. It's someone we know and who we know didn't end up being a complete piece of shit.
And it's interesting because the argument that they ended up making for why they didn't use Nick himself was that they didn't believe that Nick appeared to be redeemable by the end of the episode. But the fact that
very
they
much
used the
disagree.
same actor
Yeah.
and the same backstory almost exactly kind of makes me think that's
Yeah.
bullshit. I think they were just going with it and seeing how much they could get away
Well, I mean,
with.
Yeah.
Star Trek's history is unfortunately full of creators getting
Yeah.
fucked.
Even like Gene Roddenberry did it in that he
Yep.
added lyrics to the original series theme so that he didn't have to pay the guy that wrote the song.
No, it wasn't so he didn't have to pay him. It's so that Gene would get partial royalties every time that the song was used.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it was.
Now, in Gene's defense, he doesn't deserve to be defended for this, but in Gene's defense, at the time in television, that was not something that would have been unique to him. That was a pretty common exploitation tactic. That doesn't make it
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's just saying that the context of it is this isn't Gene being a complete deliberate asshole. This is Gene probably just doing what he's used to in the
Yeah.
industry.
Fair enough. It's still such a dick move, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And the wildest thing is, like, I do think this would have been actually a great, like, redemption arc for Nick, because at the end, like, if he just got expelled and, like, we don't find out that he decided to, like, take the entire blame for everything, then it's like, yeah, whatever, rot. But, like, the fact that Picard made a point to tell Wes that, like, the only reason he's not expelled is because Nick, like, because obviously we know that it probably didn't take a lot of convincing. Like, it seems like this crew was, like, pretty close. And so if Nick wanted to do this, I honestly don't think it would have taken a ton of convincing. I feel like the gang would have been, like, very game to try it. Because I also kind of feel
I
like
agree.
Nick doesn't. Okay, though I joked that he seems like a cult leader earlier on, it does feel like that. Like, if someone said they didn't want to do it, I kind of feel like Nick would have said, like, okay, so we won't do it.
Yeah.
If the
I think you're right.
majority of the people were like, yeah, we should tell the truth.
Yeah, it seemed like, to me, this seems like something that I mean, it could be because, Nick was leaving and wanted to, like, make a bang or whatever. But, like, it does sort of feel like this was, like, this group wanted to do something fucking cool. And, they all got kind of carried away with it and they fucked up. But I'd say that as, like, a group, I wouldn't, yeah, he's the leader, but to me, it doesn't seem like he'd, put pressure, because even because like Maggie mentioned earlier, like, he believes what he was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't saying to, like, cover up, because of, like, malicious shit. It was, like, to protect their futures.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't just his, it was, like, all of theirs. He wanted to, like, look out for, because
And he did want them to stay together. Like, it wasn't about just me.
Or throwing somebody. He wasn't like, okay, well, like, sacrifice you and you take the blame. He was like, no, we stick together. And which, like, they fucked up. Like, they absolutely fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
But, like, it feels like a missed opportunity. Like, that would have actually been quite interesting if they did make that Nick, and, like, what he learned as, like, a human being, and sort of like a low-key establishment. Because I also thought the actor was great.
He is. Yeah, Robert Duncan McNeil is very good on Star Trek when he shows up on Voyager. Unfortunately, they do Voyager's pretty stupid.
Yeah.
They do a really good job of making him the jack of all trades. And by good job, I don't mean successful job. I just mean any time that they need someone to be the greatest at something, it ends up being him, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many. Okay, by the end of the series, he has been asked to do, like, engineering things, despite not being in engineering at all. And I mean, like, go down to engineering and make sure the warp core doesn't explode.
Yeah.
Things like that. He is considered the best pilot on the ship. Also, he is a part-time medic on the ship. And it's just like, you're doing too many things. Oh, also, he's the best holo programmer on the ship, so there's that, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Wow. So talented. What's the new character's name?
Tom Paris.
Okay, here's the thing. They missed out because Nick Locarno is a great name.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I agree.
Tom, which is a billion times better than Tom Paris.
I mean, they're both named after cities in Europe.
But still, like, Nick Locarno, that's a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow. It's like wasted opportunity.
Look, Voyager
Could have had a character with a cool name.
Voyager is where potential went to die, so...
Yeah. Voyager does a good job in ruining anything potentially interesting.
Yes. So you want to do Voyager after this, right?
No. I don't want to make that voyage.
Oh.
Get out.
I'll leave. All that being said, I actually did like this episode, though.
Yeah, this
it
is
was
considered
interesting.
quite a good one for TNG, specifically because it does a very good job of addressing its particular moral argument. TNG has a habit of being preachy. Star Trek has a habit of being preachy, and I don't think this episode was, despite it actually technically being preachy, I don't think it was in a way that felt forced.
No, yeah. And I really appreciated that, like, this is an episode where, like, our main character isn't, like, framed or anything. Like, he actually fucked up. He, like, actually did something wrong, and he has to deal with it.
Yeah. I think that was also my prediction, was that Wes was framed for something.
Yeah, it was.
But I will say, though, I honestly don't think this was, like, the best Wesley Showcase episode.
Yeah, no.
Because he spends the whole time being, like, such a bummer.
What's interesting about
Yeah.
this...
For, like, valid reasons.
What's
but
interesting
still,
about
like,
this episode for Wesley's character is this was one of the few times that Wesley gets an episode centered around him in which he's not saving the day unrealistically. Like, even when he comes back to TNG earlier on in this season, in the game, he still has to, save the ship again. And in this case, it's really adding some depth to his character. It's giving him a major flaw that isn't just his own, what do you call it? That isn't just like his own ambition versus his motivations and whatnot. It's Wesley done fucked up, and now he has to deal with it like human beings do.
And he got the worst possible punishment. No more flying. But also, the best possible punishment, he got to redo school.
You're not wrong.
He loves school. More school? That's what's his dream. But also, what a bummer, though, to, like, do all that work and none of it
I
counts.
actually don't
Yeah.
agree with the punishment. Mostly because the punishment is meant to be a social punishment, but in terms of, like, the work that you're doing, you're not learning anything again because you've already done it.
Yeah.
And, okay, here's a question. How... They said, so they all got reprimands
record,
on
yeah.
their permanent, I almost said schedule. Yeah, their permanent records.
Basically, it's a black
what
mark
does
on your
that-
record.
So if someone, like, is looking to, like, put them on a ship at some point after they graduate, they're like, well, they were involved in a,
Well, yeah, it's
killed a guy.
A reprimand is something that because this is something that happened to Worf at one point too, and it's something that gets it is something that gets brought up.
That's
in
not
the
surprising,
future,
though.
for Worf, I don't remember if it gets brought up in TNG or if it gets brought up in DS9. But no, reprimand is considered a pretty serious thing. It is a dark mark. It is a barrier to advancement within Starfleet, within the trust that other officers may put in you. One of the reasons that what's her name? That Ensign Ro is considered such a pariah is formal reprimands as well as the other shit that she did. Because, like, let's face it, Ro being an
Being the
ensign,
coolest
despite
person?
being like 30-something, is clearly it's hit her career.
I mean, but she's on the Enterprise, so she's a main character, so she's doing well.
Yeah, but she only got that by
Yes,
proving
yes.
herself.
Yeah.
And we love her.
Like she was in prison
Oh,
before.
yes.
Like she lucked into the Enterprise.
Yes.
Okay. So, up until now, I mean, I've always thought that, like, Picard was, like, annoyed with Wesley. But now
Yeah.
it feels like Picard has, like, a more justified reason to be pissed at Wesley for once.
Yeah.
I wish that Wesley came up more before the end of the series, because this is something that that would forever change their relationship. But by this point, he wasn't really interested in being that much part of Star Trek anymore. He had gotten a fair amount of fan hate.
Oh yeah.
Up until this point, he was having issues with his family who were exploiting him, exploiting his fame, and he was trying to get away from them. He wanted to do more movies, and he came back to TNG a couple more times, I think, at least one or two. But this, like, every time that he comes back ends up being like a showcase episode for him.
Well, I
For
like
better or
Wes,
worse. Some of them were not great.
and I'm always happy to see him. So, I look forward to whatever future visits we get from him.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Despite him being not following the first duty of every Starfleet officer.
Oh yeah. Since when has it been the truth? Where'd Picard pull that out of his ass? Like, where'd you get that from? Half your fucking admirals are, like, crooked.
Where did that nugget come from?
You have an episode called Conspiracy. I would, yeah, the if anything, like, no, this is everybody's a bunch of fucking liars. in Starfleet and all that, the Federation and shit. Ugh. It's the bullshit military stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder, like, okay, no, I was gonna say, like, how Picard believes this. I think he does believe it, but, like, man, he's gotta know he's talking out of his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, if the episode was just focused on, like, the West stuff, I probably, like, I liked the episode, but I probably would have enjoyed it more. Picard playing Sherlock Holmes was, like, not great, and I really could have done without Boothby. Honestly, cringy in my opinion. I was like, why do you guys really need to, like, make sure everyone knew Picard was at some point? Like, holy shit, like, why can't you just, like, have someone who, like, you know, was under the radar when they were in school? Like, why does somebody have to, like, make the biggest impression? And what the fuck happened that Picard only graduated because of Boothby?
You never
Like,
find out.
What? God, good. Well, I'll make something up then. I don't know what, but I'll make something up. Maybe Picard didn't turn a paper in on time because of a series of unfortunate events. And he's like, that's it. I failed. I didn't get to this paper on time. And Boothby's like, it's okay. I'm the gardener or whatever. And I will...
Yeah, because apparently Boothby has some kind of
I guess
influence.
so.
As the gardener.
Listen, that guy's 1,000 and he's still working. So he's got to have some... He's doing okay.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, so Boothby definitely, like, somehow gets, like, a billion... Boothby seems to me the guy who has, like, a billion keys to, like, every fucking room in the place.
Yeah.
So he and Picard sneak in, and they put his paper in the teacher's desk. And Picard's like, Boothby, I couldn't have graduated without you. I would have failed everything if you didn't get that paper in on time. Yeah, that's what happened. And no one can tell me otherwise because we don't know. So, yeah,
Terrible.
That's what I'm going with. Unless I come up with a dumber thing, but that's what I'm going with for now. Yeah, Picard was a nerd. No one can tell me otherwise.
They keep trying to sell that, like, oh, he used to be a jock.
Yeah, or like he used to, like, because he's told stories where he's gotten into fights and shit. And also because he got stabbed. Oh, I was like, I don't
Yeah.
believe it. I don't believe he got stabbed. Picard's gaslighting me into a fake history. No, he's not gaslighting me. But I don't believe it. No, I'm sure it was fine. I don't know. Oh, God. I think I just have like such a distinct image of Picard at this point that if I hear anything that contradicts it, I'm like, no. No.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. I don't care if you're telling me it
Trek
did.
doesn't even have a distinct image of Picard at this point.
I'm going to gaslight the show now. A show that finished many, many years ago. I'm going to gaslight them.
All right. So let's move on to favorite moments and lines.
Okay, I got a few. Okay, let me go back. Okay. Oh, I like that Brand was not evil. She was great. Oh, I like that we got to see Wes' sweater sighting. And the weird fact that Josh and Wes went to Calgary. That was so weird. But I enjoyed it. Oh, I will say, I did enjoy Boothby's description of Nick, that he basically sounds like a cult leader. But here's the thing, though. I will give Nick the credit that, like, the reason why he isn't a cult leader is because he took actual responsibility. No cult leader would ever do that. Oh, I loved when they revealed that, like, Brand was like, oh, okay, so you told us that, but here's a random video clip we found. Take that. I was like, that's so funny. I liked when Picard had a lady with the math meme moment when he was like, the plasma. Night the plasma. Okay. When Wes said that when Picard's like, right, this is what I think happened, and Wes is like, I choose not to answer, sir. And Picard is like absolutely destroyed. Oh, Picard's like inspirational speech, that is kind of bullshit. I did enjoy that though. And I do like that Nick actually does say, well, it must have been a pretty good speech to make you turn your back on your friends. And I liked when Wes is like, I feel awful. I let everybody down. And Picard's like, you should feel bad. You will get what and you will pay for what you've done. I just like that you should feel bad.
Yeah.
And then, Picard ending the episode with being like, everyone knows what you did, and now everything's going to be really awkward on campus. Have fun. Bye.
Yeah. I thought that bit was a little much. It's like you don't...
It was so mean.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Wes, deserves to have harsh consequences and is fully deserving of people not trusting him and things like that. But, I don't know, for Picard to lay it on so thick just feels a little cruel. Like, it feels a little like kicking someone while they're down, to me.
It feels like he's like, oh, by the way, you're about to get bullied a fuck ton.
Yeah.
Bye.
I think it's very important to remember that Picard pointed it out in the episode that he put trust into Wesley at a point when very few people would have the opportunity of that kind of trust.
Yeah.
And
Listen,
it was because
Wes is a Nepo baby,
Wesley did so much to prove himself that he was worthy of that trust. And breaking trust with Picard, that's a pretty sacred thing for him because he doesn't trust very easily.
Yeah, no. I get it. I totally get it. But it still just seemed like too much to do. Like, especially the way he said it, it'll be like...
It's like, everyone knows what you did. You're a monster. You killed a kid. Bye. He might as well smoke bombed out of there or something.
Yeah, it seemed a little lacking in empathy, I think.
I mean, I do think that the episode probably could have done more to, to humanize the one who was killed, because I don't feel like they treated that with the severity that it deserved.
No.
Yeah, they made him sound like an idiot. He went to Calgary without a sweater.
No, it was Wes who went to Calgary without a sweater. It was Wesley's sweater.
No, that was
because he
Josh.
borrowed
They
Wes's
went to
sweater.
Calgary.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah, because he forgot a sweater, so that's why the dad was returning Wes's sweater. because Josh borrowed it when they went to Calgary because he forgot to bring his own sweater.
Yeah.
To Calgary. I guess shout out to Calgary in this episode.
Yeah, Canada got noticed.
Yeah. I think my favorite bit is Picard's speech and that kind of thing, because he really, like, I think that was the correct amount of dressing him down and being like, listen, man, you better tell the fucking truth, and, like, you know, you're in deep shit.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah, there's not much else, like, I would say is my favorite from this episode. I do wish they spent a bit more time with Wesley, honestly, and him grappling with this.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it in terms of.
Oh, that actually just reminded me. It does kind of like, was kind of a bummer that like Dr. C automatically, yes, we want her to believe her child.
Yeah.
But she was like, well, the satellite images must be wrong because there's no way you would lie.
Yeah.
Like, Dr. C, do you not remember the second episode of this show?
I'm actually pretty disappointed
Yes.
in the fact that the episode didn't really do much with Beverly. Like, it's her son.
Yeah, I wish she was like, do you want to talk about it? Like, she's
Yeah.
barely involved. She's just there.
Like, I know Picard is very
Listen,
much
if-
laid in as the surrogate father in this situation, but like they flat out ignored his mother, basically.
Yeah. And it's also like, you're right, like Beverly seemed a little too casual to be like, oh, you must, like you must not be lying, you know, like a little too.
And we know,
like,
we know Dr. C isn't like that.
yeah.
Because she has
Yep.
called out Wes before. So, like, this made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, Dr. C is a much more, like, analytical person, and from, everything we've seen of her, I would have thought she would probably, like, you know, interrogate him more and be like, tell me what happened. Or, like, because, like, then when he's like, oh, can you leave? I have to talk to, like, Nick. And then, like, the only other conversation he has with her is when she's like, it's not you who's lying. It's the satellite footage. That's lying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of a bummer. They just kind of, like, tossed aside Dr. C in this.
Yeah.
And I love a Dr. C, Wes C. They're really fun together, except in this episode, apparently.
Jeff, do you have any anything else you want to bring up before we move on?
I mean, the titular Picard dressing down speech that the episode gets its title from is obviously the like go-to moment in this episode for probably most people. As Picard's speeches go, it is up there with his most convincing and well delivered. But I gotta say, I kind of find how manipulative the episode is to be really entertaining, because there are so many cut to commercial moments.
Yeah.
That are on like an extreme close up, and it's something they resolve immediately after the commercial. Especially right at the beginning, where it's like there's been an accident, and you're just like, oh my god, and you get back, and it's not treated as serious as all. It's like, oh no, he's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. What a bait and switch.
Yeah. Wait. Also, the guilt sweater. Holy shit.
Yeah, that was a pretty, like...
I felt bad for Wesley in that moment. Like, I felt his pain on his behalf. I'm just like, oh, you poor child.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so effective. The next time I put on a sweater, I'm going to think of Wes.
Yeah, it was... Here's the thing. It was, like, emotionally manipulative in, like, a not cheesy way. Because
Yes.
there's always those moments when, like, someone's dealing with guilt, and then they have these moments where, like, the guilt is just, like, pushed in their face.
Yup.
Like, you know, like, being confronted with their lie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think they did a good job of balancing this out, where, like, Wesley is, like, faced with, like, having to live with the lie that they told about their friend. and like the effect that it has on this dad, but like not.
I think a
doing
lot
it
of it is
overboard.
his dad's face too. Like that man was made for facial reactions.
Yeah.
He just looks so sad.
Yeah.
I honestly expected him to like to just like kind of start yelling at all the kids or something. I thought he was gonna have the complete opposite reaction. I thought he was gonna be like, "You're all a bunch of murderers," and then like try to like find a way that like try to figure it out himself of what happened. But instead, he was like very sad, and I was very sad for him.
Yeah, I didn't remember this episode, a lot of it. So yeah, I also thought he was gonna have that reaction in like my son would never like panic like that sort of thing, but no, he just accepted it. Yeah. So in that case, let's move on to predictions for the next episode. So the next episode is called "The Cost of Living."
Is that now?
Yeah, I know. And I'm using the Netflix description for this. As the Enterprise crew prepares for an unexpected wedding, the ship begins experiencing strange breakdowns.
Oh,
Who do you think's getting
Wedding?
married?
wedding ghost. No. Oh God, a surprise wedding. Mm-hmm. I feel like Geordi.
Geordi?
Yeah, to me, okay, or Data, because Data kind of feels like he would either like go big or go home, because we've seen with what's her face last season where he was like kind of apprehensive and then he leaned the fuck in.
Yeah.
So, but I also kind of feel like Geordi's such a romantic, and Geordi falls hard. Also, it would be nice to have a Geordi episode. We don't get to see him very much lately.
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
Okay, so maybe I'm gonna guess it's Geordi. Watch, it's Riker. No.
I was just
That would be very funny. Although it's always a chance. I just feel like it's got to be one of the guys. I don't think like if it was Troy or Dr. C, there would be like drugs or some kind of external force making them do it.
Yeah.
I don't believe they would just be like, "Yep, we're doing it now." So I definitely think it's one of the guys. My guess is Geordi, but it does feel like this could be a Riker or Data thing.
I just had a funny
okay.
idea that like Data accidentally knocks someone up and gets married.
Listen, he is fully functional.
And it's like
God. What would a Data child look like? Is that even biologically?
No, it's not possible, but just
No.
they just have an episode about it and carefully ignore how that's even possible.
Oh, because he's technically had a child.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's such a sad episode.
Oh God. She was wonderful. Okay. Anyways, I'm just gonna get sad thinking about her. Okay. So I'm gonna guess that Geordi meets someone and maybe they have like powers that like when they get like big, maybe like
Were you about to say bitten?
no, like emotions, they
Oh.
get like their emotions get heightened. Maybe like stuff is like maybe they have some kind of, not magic per se, but like some kind of like malfunction will happen because of their fluctuations in like moments. And if someone's getting married, they're probably experiencing a lot of emotions, whether they be good or bad, but likely most extreme, lots of up and downs. So I'm going to go with magic mood swings. Yeah. Or it could be like a complete setup of like, someone is marrying, oh my God, it's like Pirates. Someone is marrying someone on the crew to like, as a distraction. So they're like, people can like, start breaking down the ship a little bit at a time.
Oh. I thought you were
then,
gonna
like,
say
it
they
all
have
leads-
like a matelotage or a matelotage. I'm not sure how to say the word, but
I don't know what that means.
it's pirate marriage.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. This this is a distraction, but I'll tell it anyway. When pirates were a thing, they had their own form of marriage called a matelotage or something like that, where two male pirates got married, so that, like, when one of them died, they were, like, entitled to the other person's stuff and whatnot. So, like,
They got that booty.
yeah, this is another like historians, like, they were roommates kind of thing, and it's like, oh, they did it for, like, tax purposes, and so they, like, someone could take care of their treasure or whatever, not because they were actually gay or anything. Anyway,
Party.
I was gonna make a joke that they had a matelotage for tax purposes.
Hey, listen, at this point, anything can happen in Star Trek.
Yeah.
So, but I just don't know how, like, getting married for tax purposes would break down the ship.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going with those two options. Kind of like low-key pirate distraction or high-key magic mood swings.
All right, fair enough. All right, so if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.